Hello and welcome to Macro Mondays here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is April 21st, 2025, and we have Bitcoin testing the top side of its most recent highs here, where it had previously been rejected. Bitcoin is closing above the basis band here. It closed above the upper first, pushing the upper second standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands. We haven't quite seen volatility metrics for BBWP pick up. We will see that on any kind of a break and close above $89,000. Now, I went right into this. Why? Because exactly what I've been talking about has the potential to play out, but we do need to be on the defensive here until we see an actual reclaim of $89,000. Why $89,000, Landy? Well, $89,000 is the last higher low swing on the weekly, right? That's where we got the breakdown from. We saw the big wick up, nice close in, then right back down to new lows, right? Well, the first spike down was the $78,000 or slightly above $78,000 swing down. The range break, we saw the nice buy back up that on the daily we'll take a look at in just a moment, was the retest of the consolidation prior to that big breakdown on that wick low. We came back down and broke below it and sold off to 76.5 or so, and then 74, 420.69 because we love memes, right? Well, Bitcoin is on its way back up to retest this area after getting rejected on those two bearish candles. It is coming in from the bullish aspect this time on the weekly. What do we want to see by the end of this week? Well, what do I want to see? The low is technically set on a swing and a close. Not good enough for me. I need to see the close come in above the rejected area, which is basically the swing low there at $89,000. So although we do have a continuation drive of bullish divergence, we did get a technical closing low. We didn't even see it close above 86,000. That's where we could see a real, you're going to get a lot of indicators that are going to throw a closing low signal as well as the swing low being locked in. The swing low was locked in upon the green candle at the beginning of April. All right. For me, I needed to see the closing low set above 86. You're going to see a lot of indicators are going to throw that, along with the continuation drive of bullish divergence, otherwise known as a hidden bull div. Now, in this case, I'm not happy with this until I see the actual close come in above 89. That's where I need to see the closing low be set on a weekly time frame, not just a daily, but a weekly as well. Why? Because that would set the closing low above 86 plus getting above resistance here, right? Or the rejections. That would also break the downtrend. So it would be closing a low, breaking the downtrend, and reclaiming the last higher low swing on the weekly. That is three big confluences that I would want to see for price to appreciate much higher, or have the potential to appreciate much higher. That still doesn't do much in terms of trend, because it could turn into a deviation higher high. We have a lower high here. If we get a higher high, it could become a deviation. That's okay, but at least breaking it, especially on a close, on any kind of a move back down towards this low, we start looking for higher low or equal low structure. Otherwise, if it breaks below the most recent lower low, then whatever higher high would just be a deviation, right? Then it would be a confirmed deviation. So I've gotten a few questions about this, and that's okay. Well, when it breaks, are you taking the long? No. I'm already long from the low, the front run of this big area of interest down here on the weekly from the high side of last year's consolidation prior to the breakout. I took longs based on signals that I was seeing on the daily and under time frames. And it was counter trend trading, and I was comfortable taking a swing position from there upon the retest on the daily. In fact, so the retest was the Wednesday the 9th candle. So we had the low in at 74, 420.69. We came down and we retested it. There was a lot of bullish divergence building up there. Momentum was cooked to the downside. It was at extremes. It was begging for a long position. I went swing long there. It has worked out quite well. That doesn't always happen that way. It could have easily swung under. My stop was sufficient enough that I had some room on it, but even then, I was willing to be taken out of that position. It was an informed entry. And in this case, when looking at the weekly, I'm not looking at the break as what I want to take. And in this case, if we do get a break, otherwise it could just end up being another lower high. We don't know where this week's candle closes, right? So what we want to see is a reclaim of 89. We want to see closes above 88,800. That is a main area of resistance that I've talked about over and over again. We'll revisit in just a moment, but it's more of what am I looking for? What I'm looking for is we have the downtrend here, looking for a break above, and then wherever we end up, let's say higher high is up here. It doesn't have to be there. It could be lower. It could be higher. It doesn't matter. This thing could cook all the way back to the actual highs. What I'm looking for is higher low structure to form, or equal low structure, and then break that higher high to form an uptrend. This higher low or equal low is what I would be looking for. All right, that is the next big swing that I would be looking for, and I would take that on confirmation with size. And in this case, yeah, I'm in a swing position, but it's not with massive amounts of size. We're headed up to resistance. We still haven't broken it. If the daily presents something, I'm going to be looking at it on the daily. But the weekly at minimum needs to start shifting structure. So break the downtrend, higher, lower, equal, low structure from there. That's pretty damn bullish from there. Then we monitor back to the most recent highs, right? And in this case, this could run. This could run all the way, right? Like, no one knows. I mean, there's speculation that people have. Let's say it runs all the way to the highs. No matter what, we have to see higher low, equal low structure. I don't care if the higher low is all the way up here, if it's down here, if it's all the way to here to equal lows, doesn't matter. That is what I'd be looking for, because I want to see healthy, constructive price action for the longer term timeframes like the weekly. Because then we can start working our way up the time frames in terms of our thesis for was this the top, or is there more left in it? I would still argue there's more left in Bitcoin at this point. And in fact, maybe even another leg. I know there are going to be those that disagree with me, and that's okay. And I'm just doing that based off of the simple stuff. This is an uptrend. Right? I'm not going to fade the end of the trend until the end of the trend, right? And in this case, it's not the end of the trend. There's only really a couple of scenarios that can occur from here. And that is, a higher low. Let's say this is the higher low. And by the way, it would have to be, in this case, above $95,000. We're going to talk about that. That would be the higher low on a swing and a close, even though I'd want to see closes back above 102 and the all-time high to really solidify that. From a technical point of view, up above 95, 128 in this case would set another higher low of the monthly. But, until we get a scenario like this, or we get a scenario like where we get a higher high swing that then, fails and then comes back down and takes out the most recent higher low, I'm not looking at this as bear market start yet. So we're still in an evaluation phase, right? So this is very highly likely, even if it does go lower, it's very highly likely going to end up in a higher low as it relates to this last swing higher low. Where would there be danger from here? Well, there's a couple of danger points here when looking at Bitcoin in this regard. And that is that, the danger would be that this ends up coming down and breaking below, right? It doesn't put in a higher low, but it comes up and it breaks below $49,000. That would be a lower low. right? And I would still be looking for a move back up. I wouldn't be looking for it to just keel over, although it could. But I'd still be looking for lower highs and then a downtrend to form for a longer form bear market if that were to occur. I would say that even if it didn't break below that, but it broke below the actual close and it closed on a lower low, uh, then I would be I'd be cognizant of the next move up possibly being a lower high equal high. Just as we need to be cognizant of, if this pump turns into a real move back to the upside and a range reclaim, that this doesn't end up in a lower high and then take out, a higher low. If this were to be the higher low, right? Then that would be the structure change that I'd be looking for. We're just not there yet, right? Now danger on any closes, in between 49 and 59 here. That would be your first warning signal. Would be a bearish closure on a closing lower low, even if it didn't make a new lower low as it relates to the $49,000 low. But until that happens, this is a bull market. We've had the bull run up. We've seen the top. Can the bulls reclaim and go on another bull run? That's what we're looking for, right? That's what we don't know yet. And when looking at the daily, there's a lot of overhead resistances to get through, right? If we go ahead and get rid of the bands here, which I'll do for just a moment, and then we'll bring them back so that I can kind of drive a point home here for expansion into resistance. But in this case, we're right at the 1.168 or 16.8%, not 61.8, but 16.8% above the prior cycle high when pulling the $69,000 high to the bear market low at 15.5, right? So we're looking at a very well back-tested fib for me in traditional markets and crypto markets. It works very well on fib extensions in this case, So we're right up against that resistance. We have a lot of overhead resistance for Bitcoin to get through. We've saw the first bearish candle post expansion out of the range from last year. With the low there at 85, I've been pretty consistent. Above 85, it's got a chance to go test. It did. Lower term time frame pivot, not necessarily a daily pivot, but definitely has been that lower term time frame pivot turned into a bit of a daily pivot here. Although some are going to be 84, 86, and that's okay. That's based on whatever they're measuring. For me, it's been 85. Look at the close open here, coming right in on that 1.168, and then the higher low from the initial move up, the initial push, kind of defined the bottom side resistance between 88.7. You can call it 89 at that weekly higher low if you'd like. That's fine. It doesn't have to be on this daily. For the daily purposes, it's at 88.7. Need to see closes in there, and then it's between 88.7 and the close open up here at 92. And then we saw all of these swings in here, no closes. We got the first closure, tried to hold it up, lost it, and the low over here, and subsequently, got a little front run of 85, nuked through it, hit 78, popped right back up. Hey, what's this? This is the consolidation on the top side of right at 96, as kind of like 95.5 to $96,000 is the common close open here. Once it broke 95 is when we saw that big move down, right? Well, we got the massive retest. So the major overhead resistance is this, you can call it 89. We'll just call it 89 because of that weekly. That's what we want to see closes above for the weekly. To 92. Above there, we have the weekly close open of that higher low that put in the $89,000 swing here. That was a higher low. We got a higher low close open. That is the weekly at 93.5. And then we've got 95.128. That's the big one. Now, some aren't going to be comfortable with that. Some are going to want to see this candle taken out at 100K or 99.5, depending on your exchange. There's even a nice little wick to that 100K just over it. And then we're back into that 101 to 104 area by the 1272, and then possibly back to the highs. As it stands right now, what am I watching for? I want to see 88.7 closed above. I want to see 92 closed above, and then start pushing towards that weekly and see how price reacts. If it does stall out here, pay attention to the local structure. The local structure is going to tell us a lot. Like I said, $85,000 pivot's going to be, well, pivotal. And in this case, look to this last higher low at 84 and then right down to 83. So this is going to be the zone if we start to see any even lower term time frame closures below 85. And I'm going to tell you, there's going to be pivots that are above there that are going to give you the edge on the daily even before that anyway. But still have to give price action a chance. You start seeing closes below 85, look right to $84,000 and then 83. If that's dropped, we're probably running the lower half of the 80s, upper half of the 70s again. All right, so that is something to be fully aware of. Other than that, we're at the resistance 89 to 92. Would like to see a reclaim and then work its way towards 93.5 and then subsequently 95 up here. What about Bollinger Bands? Let's go ahead and take a look at Bollinger Bands. That's not Bollinger Bands. Bollinger Bands are going to be over here. Now this is the Landy Bands indicator. It's free. You can find it in the bit.ly link on my profile on X. You can find it in the video link in the description down below on YouTube. Reminder, these videos are posted and pinned. The latest video will always be pinned on X. That's where most of the views come from. The YouTube video goes up a little bit later. It's primarily people who want to watch this on their TV on a big screen. That tend to watch that based on metrics. So it doesn't get a lot of views, but you can always find the Landy Bands indicator. It's free. It is private. You just have to add it to favorites and then it'll show up in your favorites indicators tab under indicators here. I think it's called, yeah, it's going to be favorites is what it'll show up under. And it's called Landy Bands. It's just triple Bollinger Band set. There's moving averages and all kinds of other stuff in there. It's going to be updated soon though, but it's free. Now, when looking at the structure here, I lost my, oh yes, what you can see is for the bands, you see the upper second standard deviation right here at the 1618. You see the upper third right at 92. It would be, with the bands this expanded, not coming off of like a deep compression, could we hit the upper third? Sure. I would be cautious because it's right at resistance. It's very rare that when bands are this wide that we would see closures above it. Although weird things can happen, then I would extend up to that 93.5, possibly more. I mean, we have seen very, very large candles based on exacerbated price movements based on news. Maybe there's good news that could goose this. But I will say we have to exercise caution here at resistance. So why? Well, because there's not too much going on here in the potential for bearish divergence in terms of there's not too much going on here in terms of a reclaim. It's just testing the resistance. We need to see a reclaim and a flip on lower term time frames. But we're also, you know, in a place where depending on where the close comes in, especially on closes below right around 87.5, we would start to see bearish divergence form here. And we do have stochastic momentum all the way in the overbought zone. Doesn't mean much. It can hang up here for a while. So understand that if you're bearish, it can hang in the overbought zone. This is a regular Stoch, not a Stoch RSI. Stoch RSI measures the velocity of the RSI, which is an indicator of an indicator. We just looked at RSI. We don't really need that now. So this is measuring close over close price momentum. Closes above 87,100 to 200. We'll keep momentum pointed to the upside. And even if it lurches over, that as long as structure remains intact, higher lows, higher highs for this move, then we can maybe entertain a bullish reset of momentum. So don't put too much stock in this. It's about the confluence between trend, support and resistance, volatility, and momentum, not just one piece of those. And in this case, we do want to see continued closures to keep momentum up, which means that we want to see a reclaim of the 89 to 92, preferably closes above 92. I don't know about my confidence in that based on the look right now, but you know, we'll find out throughout the rest of this week, right? When looking at the weekly, we have the basis band right at $92,000. So understand that we're still in the bearish half of the bands, and the basis band is right overhead. And that is, of course, the 20 simple here. So just understand that it is significant resistance along all of our metrics here, including, of course, support and resistance. So just, you know, it's better to be cautious here and just evaluate what's happening with price and not get overly bullish or bearish but instead just wait to see what happens. Now, the interesting part for the weekly is we do have a counter trend momentum signal right now. It is not mature in what I would consider a mature signal until we see a trend break, because it's still a downtrend. So we do want to see that trend break on closes above $89,000. That would look really good for this particular signal, and any kind of moves back down, provided momentum remain to the upside. We see structure being built, higher low, equal low structure. We could potentially be staring at another leg for Bitcoin. Now, where is the momentum pivot? Because that is very important. It's at 82,800. So recall on the daily what I just said about, and that's significant, by the way. That's all the way oversold and coming out of the oversold zone. So in this case, we're looking right to this consolidation low, right around $83,000. And you can even take the first candle of this consolidation, the bull candle here, at 82,765. That's essentially right where the weekly momentum pivot is. It's also where the current daily basis band is. Well, to be fair, the basis band is slightly above there at 83.3, but it's right around that area. And something to be aware of. So cautiously optimistic for the bulls here. This will be their third retest. You can consider it even a fourth here for the candles that fall inside. Typically we like to see that. We have volume coming in. We have short positions being open, so short open interest is rising. So could there be the potential for maybe a breakthrough here? That's what we're going to wait for. And that doesn't mean that we don't trade the lower term timeframes and the setups that we're used to, or that I'm used to. Still trading, still, long, took a hedge earlier, closed the hedge because price was coming right back at it. So, it is a time to be defensive, but cautiously optimistic for price, as that weekly did turn and is showing signs that it does want to try to push through. We shall see. Now, let's go ahead and get rid of all this stuff. And let's go check on Ethereum and Solana. So Ethereum, I presented this 4-hour setup in Friday's video, and we got the actual expansion up to overhead resistance, close open right on it, and then boom, right down to the other side. So we ran one side to the other. I had mentioned expansion soon. We got a nice move up to this local high, rejected, moved back down, but did not enter the red zone for the for expansion down. And because it expanded up, we just got to move right back down. Held on to all the swings in here, popped right back up to overhead resistance, and then came down and plumbed the lows right there. So that was the 4-hour setup. Worked out very well. Was actually pretty fun to trade as well. Now, let's go ahead and kind of talk about where ETH is in the grander scheme of things for these weeklies and kind of where the daily falls. Man, ETH looks like garbage on the daily, I'll be honest with you. It's not doing a lot for me, and that's just being straight up with you. Look, I'm not going to sit here and champion the death of ETH or anything like that. But price action has definitely been a challenge for the bulls to pick up. Still hanging around that 15-20 level. If it's dropped, you see the close open right on it. That's an established weekly. We've had it here for a long time. And if it does break down below there, then I would be looking to the lower second, somewhere around the lows, 1400, 1450, anywhere below there. We're looking to that 1369. Bulls need to hold on to that. That would not look good if they lose that. Even on a move back to the top side here, upper second is now right in line with that $1,800 overhead resistance, right where the consolidation before the breakdown came in. So be aware that even if we see nice big green candles up, need to see closes above 1,800, then we can start picking our way through up here in the 1950 to 2,000 range, right around the highs here. And then start looking at 2,100, that main red level that was lost, that Ethereum was holding for quite some time. And then still need to see 2320 closed above on a weekly. That would look really good. or 2300, and then 2320 on the daily would look good, but still bearish below the Twin Towers. Just like on Bitcoin, they're at 95. Here on Ethereum, they're at 2551. Is this a tradable move if it was just to go on a march back to the upside? Absolutely. Take it, right? You know, is it still, would it still be a really lucrative trade? You bet your ass. But in terms of bearishness for the longer term time frame, still below that 25.55. So just understand that don't confuse my overall bearishness until we see this reaccumulation or start to reaccumulate, which this is still just straight up distribution all the way down. We need to start seeing reaccumulation. We need to start seeing levels regained, and it's going to be one step at a time. It might take a little while, but I do think that ETH will pull out, pull it out. Oh God, we're going to get into all kinds of yay Diddy conversations apparently. All right, now we did see a structure break, of course. Nice low put in around that $98 to $100 level, $95,000 for Solana. Came back up and sat right on our 125, 126 level. That's now where the basis band is. So Solana showing a little bit more strength here, but still in a very similar position to everything else. We need to see closes above that 147, 150. You could take 152 up here if you like, 153 on the swings. Above there, I would be looking to 169. Nice, and still bearish longer term below on closes below 180. Start seeing that area break. Probably good. Still need to see structure built. This is still distribution from the highs. Need to see reaccumulation. So obviously for reaccumulation, I want to see the weeklies, the weekly low set. Looks like it is, but still needs to beat out that high at around that 147, 150 on the weekly time frame to go test. And then I need to see higher low, equal low structure start to develop from there. That'd be some nice reaccumulation. And probably turn bullish pretty quickly. I do like that it regained. It took a little bit of a trip under the 125, 126 level to plumb below $100, but I still think that it's more bullish than not that it's holding up at this level, but it needs to continue to hold up at this level. Otherwise, it's going to be retesting these lows and threatening to test lower. This is a big downtrend break. The last higher low is at that 169, right? And this was a well-established level off the close open high over here. Spiked it, got up to those new higher highs, basically double topped on a close up here, essentially double topped, and then nuke. Now, that's distribution. And in this case, are we going to see redistribution? Is this still a distribution phase, right? Like some people are going to measure that stuff differently. In this case, we don't know until we see, this last lower high swing on the weekly cracked above, or if it pulls up short and gets higher high close, but ends up nuking down because this isn't really a clean structure. It's more of a consolidation sideways with a swing high to a swing lower low on a swing and a close in this case. So want to see 125 hold anywhere below there, 120. Starts to crack below there, $100 is fair game and lower. So alts going to be praying for Bitcoin this week, and rightfully so. Bitcoiners are praying for Bitcoin to recover back to the upside here as well, if they're long. And I think there's more of a bullish case starting to form, even if it does come back down and try to tag lows again. We'll see. But for now, that's all I got. It's been a half hour. Sorry to bore you with all of that information, but I think that we got some pretty important stuff that we had to talk about this week, and kind of set you up for what we'll be talking about likely on Wednesday. So I'm going to let you go now. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for supporting. And I want to bid you a wonderful evening. Good night. Goodbye. Landy out.